Okay, so we've got a request here for help from a young woman, and just for the record, I'm going to read to you what she's sent me this morning. She says, and I quote this word for word, 7 months ago I felt my bed vibrating. I'd been conducting amateur ITC sessions, that's communicating with spirit through technology, ITC.
Oh, right, okay.
Are you familiar with that? There are researchers that specialise in this area. So I wasn't overly disturbed. But the next morning I woke to something vibrating madly inside me, in brackets private part. So this ITC business again is an instrument. It's open gateway, isn't it?
Yeah, so it means instrumental transcommunication. The term describes communication with non-physical entities. Oh, right, okay. I'd never heard of it actually, but
yeah. In fact, I know some people in the SPR who do experiment with this, and I've been to an experiment, so I know what it's about. Yeah. Carry on with her report. At the beginning, the physical side of the possession was completely over the top, very pronounced. I was made to feel sick and dizzy, and then I would be sexually moved around, sometimes quite dramatically. The attacks became so bad, I often had to leave the house as I didn't want my son to see. Then it started communicating by moving my head to spell things out. I also felt my upper body, especially being occupied. Also, my legs would be taken over. After more time, I began auto-writing with my finger, then began to hear the finished sentence in my mind. He can also physically speak through my mouth. The vibrating is constant, and I am always waking up to mainly my rectum vibrating, but as soon as he realizes I'm awake, it gets fainter, but it never stops. I've tried prayer, also energy work on myself, but nothing has got him out. I have the constant feeling of being monitored, which is as wearing as the continuous sexual happenings. My body and mind have become someone else's playground, basically. He said he won't go. He seems to have serpentine qualities. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it may mean reptilian, perhaps. Mm-hmm. I feel him partly seeming to come out of my body at night and feel the settee move when he does what he calls whirling. It's very tiring living like this and very time consuming. And that's the end of her report. Now, let's go through the protocol. And I'm going to make notes as we go through the protocol. First, I'd like to invite the subject's guide to attend and present him or herself.
Okay, so we've got a female called Maria that's coming forward. Okay, I'm just checking that she's genuine, which CHEN says she is, so that's good.
Okay. So let's communicate with Maria and ask Maria what's going on here.
Okay, so Maria's saying, so Maria's just saying to me basically it's all part of her learning process really. He said that she's saying that the client has engaged with different types of entities and this is what she wanted in a way. She wanted to explore what it's like to converse with and work with other types of interdimensional entities, and that's what's happening. Even though she may now see it as a negative effect, the guide is saying it's an effect. So the guide doesn't see it as a particularly bad thing, if you like, but then sometimes they tend not to, because that's part of the learning curve.
Okay, so it's all part of her learning process. Okay. Now, can we request the assistance of her higher self?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so the higher self is just asking for confirmation that we're working for her highest good, and he's saying to me that the guide will be the gatekeeper in the conversation. So Maria will, if you like, be in between my conversation and the higher self, which is fine.
Right. So now let's ask if the patient is sovereign.
No, so that's straight away.
Okay. Can we ask the higher self for an assessment of the percentage integrity of the etheric body?
Okay, so the integrity is 83%. So that's quite high, actually, for the sorts of people we normally work with.
Yeah, okay. And what's caused the damage to the integrity of the etheric body?
Okay, so it's saying that, well, the negative attachment is the biggest part of that problem.
Is there anything else that's caused damage? I'm going to go through a little list here. Emotional trauma, recreational substances, drugs, alcohol, prescribed medicine. Any of those?
Okay, so now I'm getting no to all of those. So no, although there may be, obviously, people have played with drugs or played with alcohol, there's no detrimental damage.
Okay. So now let's ask for the highest self for an estimate of the connection between her own soul essence and connecting with the higher self.
Okay, so this is coming back at 87%.
So that's reasonably high, isn't it?
It's very high, actually.
Yeah, we could. Now, before we go on to deal with these possessing entities, let's ask: are there any missing soul parts, lost, stolen, held by fragmented soul parts, dissociated parts, thought forms?
Yeah, so there are, yes.
There are. Okay. So we'll deal with those as we progress. Anything specific from that list? Let me go through it again. Lost, stolen.
So yeah, it's traded. So most of it's been traded. So this entity has been trading her energetic field, if you don't, or her energy on like an interdimensional level.
Okay.
So the guide's saying this is why she's suffering now with extreme fatigue.
Okay. Are there any dissociated parts?
No.
Any self-created thought forms?
No.
Any previous life thought forms?
Well, there are, but they're not apparent to this conversation.
Okay. So, where is the origin of this person's vulnerability?
So sexual center, so sacral chakra, basically.
Why is that so vulnerable?
Okay, so the guide is saying to me it's vulnerable because it's the part of her that obviously contains the most emotional change of state. So by activating the sexual chakra and the sexual energy is what these entities are actually looking to do, because it's what they get the most from themselves.
Right, yeah.
And it obviously works quite well.
I asked the question because of the sexual activity, and because in most of the cases we deal with, the attachment comes through the upper part of the body or through the head and the back of the neck. But here we've got a different point of access.
Yeah, so I was just asking CHEN whether he can provide more info, and he's saying that this is classic of this type of entity. So he's saying that the other entities, or some of the other entities that we've been dealing with, connect into, like you said, the back of the head and those points, because they're interested in the level of negativity, whereas this type of entity is more interested in the actual sexual energy that it can generate. So, so Chen's saying it's a different food choice, basically, for that entity.
There's an academic term for these types of entities, isn't there? Succubus and incubus. Would that be correct? Am I on the right track here?
I've never heard of it, but Chen's agreeing, basically.
Okay, so these succubus and incubus are not figments of the imagination or supernatural nonsense. They do exist.
Yeah, Chen's saying, he's talking to you, so he's just saying they're real, basically.
Yeah, I thought they were. Okay.
So, what are they? So it's a
succubus and incubus. It's a male or female spirit that is sexual.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember which is which, succubus or incubus, the male or the female, but those are the terms used in academia.
Right, okay.
In the study of demonology, actually.
So Chen's saying this particular instance is a succubus, whatever. Okay. I'll look it up, actually.
Okay, yeah, you can look it up.
I like learning new things as well.
Yeah.
How do you spell it, Terry?
S-U-C-C-U-B-U-S.
Oh, okay. You're a mine of information, aren't you?
Well, I've studied these things at university, my friend. That's what I
yeah, so that's interesting. So succubus is a female demon believed to have sexual intercourse with sleeping with men. So so Chen's saying that will explain to you why it's a female demon with a female client as opposed to a male.
All right.
Well, talking to you rather than me, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so we know what we're dealing with there. Now, the client suggested something in her report. She used the word serpentine, and I interpret that as perhaps reptilian.
So Chen's agreeing already. That's interesting. Yeah. Sorry, I was just reading more about the succubus. Quite interesting, actually. Okay. I'll put that on my reading list.
Yeah. So we've got reptilian too. And what's the origin of the reptilian? And I have a reason for asking this, because I've encountered this before and I didn't arrive at a resolution before.
Okay, so Chen's saying from this planet, basically.
This planet?
So Chen's saying that this particular entity was conceived on this planet, basically.
A long time ago.
Subterranean, whatever. So a subterranean entity. And he's also saying that this particular entity we're dealing with can actually manifest in the physical reality, which most of them can't, apparently. Or he's saying most of them are unable to do that, but this one could or can.
Well, that makes sense, because it's causing her a lot of physical distress. So it can cross the boundaries of what we would call the three-dimensional universe, the three-dimensional box, the physical realm. It can cross those boundaries.
So Chen's saying it can actually manifest in its own physical form, or it will inhabit the physical vehicle of a human, basically.
So when it manifests in physical form, what's its appearance? What would it look like?
Okay, so I'm just asking for a picture. So Chen's shown me a picture of basically a snake with legs.
Really?
So two legs basically, and a snake's body, but obviously stood up. So he's saying to me, he's talking to you actually. So he's saying, Terry, you know the picture you understand of that's scribed into the walls of the Egyptian pyramid. Mm-hmm. This is that basically.
Okay.
So I can see what I can see. I'm assuming you know what picture he's talking about.
So it's a bipedal serpent.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
So you're saying that you understand the pictures of them carrying the stick, or whatever. Show me like a picture of a stick with a big top on, like a staff almost. Then, if you like.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, good. So we know what we're dealing with. Now, let's move on. I'd like you to wear your cloak of invisibility.
I made sure that was on actually before we started, yeah. So.
And let us ask for assistance from the guide and the higher self. And let us surround this entity with a bubble of white light.
Okay, yeah.
And let us ask if it is aware of our presence.
So, so I'm just hearing like really powerful laughter, and it's basically saying, you know, you're not really aware of what you're dealing with here, and you're slightly out of your depth.
Well, that's interesting. It's because we're learning from you, my friend. We're learning from you. So, and we're learning how to deal with you. So let us ask CHEN with his team to surround this entity.
Okay, so Chen's saying to me basically that him and his team don't have the right ability here, so they're calling in a higher level of help, if you like.
Right. Would it be helpful to call on Archangel Michael and his team?
Yeah, so we can do that. Okay, so Chen's just saying to me, we've asked for a level 24 help / guide. So he's saying, just to explain it in simple terms, and basically, obviously on a level, this particular entity is extremely powerful. It's been around a long time, and we're unable to deal with it as we would normally deal with with the negative things that we normally work with. So Chen's saying that to save time, he's basically called in the right level of help, which is level 24.
Is this the sort of entity that Roman Catholic exorcists are called upon to deal with?
Yeah, so he's saying they would understand the naming convention of this type of entity.
Okay.
But he's also saying that a normal human being would not be able to remove this type of entity because it's too strong.
Okay. So
he's saying you would need spiritual help, if you like.
Okay. All right. Well, let's ask for that, if we can. And if you can let me know what's happening.
Yes, okay, so I'm focusing on the person now, on the client, female, and I can see a really big thick cord that goes straight into the sacral chakra, and basically what's happening is I can see other types of guide that are basically working on removing that connection.
Right.
So this Succubus has been taken to one side and is being, if you like, held while they just break that connection.
Okay. If you'd like to just continue with a running commentary on what you see.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just talking to this entity now, basically, that's saying it's one of the Lilith hierarchy.
Lilith, it's
saying, yeah, Lilith. So it's saying it's one of the Lilith hierarchy, and it's saying that you may remember that this particular client gave permission for this experience. So it's saying that it will, because it will need to, retract from the client and will disconnect. It will do so of its own choice rather than being forced. And it's saying in return it will also be released to continue what it does because it can do that apparently. So there's a conversation happening between this particular entity and the team that are basically removing it, and it's agreed to be removed, but do it itself, and in doing so it then effectively is allowed to be free to carry on. And it's just laughing to say that this particular lady obviously needs to be very careful as to what she asks for. So it is that same conversation that we have quite often. That
yes, it's all part of the learning process. We can't deny the existence of these entities. We can't destroy them or or wish them into non-existence because they exist. And all life forms in the universe have a right to exist. But we need to be able to understand and protect ourselves from discomfort, don't we?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And it's just saying to me now that, it's quite enjoyed the experience of the sexual feedback that it's had from this particular person. So it's actually kind of almost like taunting her, really, to say that she's enjoyed it as well, just that she may not say that, if you like.
Well, again, previous cases and previous experience would reinforce that message. And this is what makes them dangerous, because they can bring pleasure. Well, it's all very
Okay, so
interesting.
Chen's saying that, so it's disconnected itself basically now.
Okay.
So now I can see that's been broken.
Good.
And it's just presented itself, so it just showed me a picture of itself. So, like really close up. So it's like looking at a snake's head, and the colours I'm seeing are like a dark grey, if you like, with kind of opal eyes that are just totally black. There's no white or no colour at all. And it showed me like a kind of a serpentine mouth, so like a snake's tongue, if you like, with a forked end.
Right.
And then it showed me a picture of a really, really attractive, like blonde-haired woman with bright blue eyes, like a sort of Californian striking image, and saying, "These are both me," or that I can be both of these.
Right, the Barbie doll.
But yeah, basically, yeah, the American, epitome of Hollywood, if you like.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the danger of sexual attraction, isn't it?
Yeah, so she's saying to me, "You better also watch out for me." It's really funny.
Okay.
So I just said, "I don't like blondes," as it happens, so I'll be fine.
Well, useful learning experience, and we must thank the entity.
Yeah, it's very conversational with me. It's not, there's no threat or anything at all, really. So
sometimes it does pay to enter into dialogue with entities we discover, rather than just dismissing them.
Yeah, this one's actually quite funny, really, considering, and it's obviously very confident about its own ability in itself, in that we're not of the threat, really. So
okay,
and it's obviously agreed to disconnect rather than be forced to, which is unusual as well, really.
Yeah, well, we can be grateful for that. And the subject now, the client, needs to take this on board and understand that the dangers, and keep herself safe and protected from intrusion.
Okay, so this entity just said to me, people that use the box need to be very careful about what they hear. I don't really understand what it means, but
I understand perfectly what it means. Yeah, I witnessed a recent demonstration in London of someone using the box.
What is the box?
It's an insulated box that is designed to block out all forms of electromagnetic signals, radio signals, and so on, so that the spirit can communicate and record on a device in the box, and it can then be known that it's a spirit communication and nothing to do with radio communication.
So it's like a Faraday cage, basically.
Yeah. So ask the entity, are we on the right track here? Is this the sort of box he's talking about?
Yeah, so it's just laughing, basically.
Good.
And he's just saying to me, "Your kind are just like babies, really, playing in a like a pool of crocodiles." So it's saying there's many of my kind, and we'll feast on your kind, basically.
And always have been,
yeah. So it's
And of course, these ideas are dismissed by modern society. So, well, thank you very much for the education.
It's quite funny. So anyway, I'm still talking to this entity, and it said, "If modern society would like to give permission, I can show them the same experience should they wish." So it's basically throwing out the gauntlet to say, if there's someone in the modern realms that doesn't believe, it would be more than happy to teach.
Well, it's an interesting proposition for a research project, isn't it?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't choose to be that though myself.
No. But
But it's basically saying that if you can find a client that doesn't believe in this type of thing, that is eminent and would like to experience it, it would be more than happy to help.
Okay, well, we have that recorded and on record, and let's see what happens in the future. And let's thank this entity for its cooperation and its enlightenment and that education. And let's see if we can sever the link now, withdraw, and ask if anyone, CHEN or higher self or the guide, Maria, has anything to say?
So Maria's just saying that for this particular client, this is just part of the experiences that she needs to have. Okay. So she's saying there will be more of these for her because she needs to experience them for where she's going. And it's saying that her interest will only be more, she'll be more intrigued by this than not, if you like. Which is good because that's how you learn things, isn't it?
That's how you learn. So
yeah,
learning by experience. So unless anyone else has anything important to say,
no, I think we're all done. Chen's just saying that from your point of view, Terry, it's another aspect, another, if you like. Well, he's saying it's like another T-junction, really.
Okay.
Another path. And he's saying as well that your understanding of these things, he's just saying to me to advise you that this won't be the last, so you may wish to do more research.
Okay, fine. Well, thanks very much for that help and advice, and let's end that recording there.